My name is Davi Barker, and I'm here with Bitcoin Not Bombs.
And can you tell us what Bitcoin Not Bombs is?
We're a publicity organization for charities and social entrepreneurs and people who are seeking to make social change, who want to accept Bitcoin, and when they want to fully capitalize on that decision, we run campaigns for them. We run promotional, activities for them.
Awesome. That sounds really cool. And can you tell us what happened with the TSA?
Yeah, so this was about a week ago at the Liberty Forum in New Hampshire. I was traveling home from the Manchester airport, and I was wearing one of these hoodies. These are from the Hoodie the Homeless campaign from Bitcoin Not Bombs. And I was, I opt out. I always opt out. And they said that there was a lot of strange metal in my bag and that they had to go through it to make sure that it was safe. And what they were talking about was the lapel pins that I sell. When I go to conferences, I sell these sort of metallic lapel pins from shinybadges.com. And so I'm accustomed to them being confused by this. And so they search my bag and they run it through the x-ray machine again. And what was interesting was when they were emptying out my luggage, they said, "Are there any coins in here?" And I said, "No, but why?" Because it's a strange question. And they said, "Well, we just want to make sure there's nothing valuable in here." And I said, "Well, they're valuable to me," because they are. They're merchandise. In hindsight, I shouldn't have said anything, but I did. And I think that was exactly the wrong answer, because as soon as I packed up my things and I began to leave, I was approached by two plainclothes officers in like a shirt and tie, and they wanted to know where I was flying, and they wanted to know how much money I was carrying, and they just all around wanted to detain me and question me. And the reason they gave, because I didn't answer their questions, so they eventually said, "Well, tell us about the Bitcoin."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" And they said, "Well, we think we saw Bitcoin in your bag." And so I immediately, I know they're full of it, right? And so I said, "Can I talk to a superior officer? Because I don't think you know what you're talking about." And they said, "We're the superior officers, and if you're not going to cooperate with us, we're happy to call law enforcement, and we'll detain you until you whatever. We'll disappear you for a while," because that's what they do.
Is that what they really said?
Not in those words, but they said that they would detain me until I answered their questions. Yeah, they said I had an obligation to answer their questions. And so I said, "What do the Bitcoins look like? Like, what did you see?" And they said they looked like tokens or medallions. And so at this point, I know they're talking about my lapel pins, but I still don't want to tell them anything, because I am holding Bitcoin, I have it on my phone.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to give them any information that might lead them to look in the right place, because I don't know what crime it is they're fishing for charging me with. And it comes out that the person I'm traveling with, which is Bill Bupert from zerogov.com, he tells them that I'm flying to San Francisco. And so the moment they discover I'm not flying internationally, they say, "Oh, well, we've lost our jurisdiction," and they leave. And so they're enforcing a law which says that you have to declare anytime you carry more than $10,000 across an international border. And so they've decided that that law applies to Bitcoin, and that's what they were fishing for.
Trying to get organized,
but I wasn't flying internationally, right? And so that wasn't the issue.
Now, it's kind of funny when the competent TSA agents think that Bitcoin actually exists in physical form. I know sometimes you can make specific coins, but Bitcoin is a digital currency. It makes no sense. But
it's arguable, even if it was on my phone, that it wasn't on my person, because the Bitcoin itself exists on the blockchain. All that is on my phone are the private keys to control the movement of those Bitcoin.
What does this incident tell you about government intrusion into the Bitcoin world?
So what I've been saying about this incident, and so I recognize that I'm weird, that I dress weird and I talk weird and I carry weird things through TSA checkpoints, and that's okay. So I am a kind of canary in the coal mine on this one, and that's why I'm the first person this has happened to. But what this really means is that when they said in the Bitcoin hearings in DC that they could regulate Bitcoin through existing laws, and they didn't think that they needed a new regulatory regime, that what they're going to do now is they're going to interpret old laws in new ways, and they're not going to tell us how they interpret them, and they're not going to discuss it in the legislature. They're just going to have bureaucrats and law enforcement decide that Bitcoin violates all of these existing laws. And then they're just going to start selectively prosecuting people. So they saw my hoodie, and they said, "Oh, I saw that symbol in some sort of training seminar in the TSA, lounge, and so I'm going to target him." And that PowerPoint presentation probably had a picture of Casasius coins, and so they thought Bitcoin were tokens, and so they thought that they hit a jackpot by seeing all these lapel pins in my bag. And so from now on, I'm going to be giving them something to search for. I've made this device here, which is a clear, transparent plastic, and it's filled with aluminum rounds that have a Bitcoin B on them but have no value other than the aluminum that they're made of. They're Casacious blanks. They were made by Casacious, but there's no hologram, there's no Bitcoin on them or anything. Yeah. And so next time they search my bag, they're going to find this, and they're going to have to decide how they're going to deal with it.
It should be a very interesting scenario. I definitely strongly recommend having video on there. But what does it say when regulators fail to enforce laws with big banks, and they're openly money laundering to drug traffickers and to mafias and to terrorist organizations, and they get a slap on the wrist? But people like yourself, who are doing charity work, right, you know, are the ones being targeted and harassed for a new digital currency. I mean, this is just insane. Can you tell us also the story behind the hoodie? Because I know there's a whole story of what you guys did with the hoodie.
So let me answer the first question first. The answer is it is completely sane, and it tells you that birds of a feather flock together, that the government being a terrorist organization enjoys other terrorist organizations, that the government being a money laundering organization enjoys other money laundering partners. And so of course they don't enforce these laws against their friends and partners. But they will absolutely selectively enforce it against anyone who threatens that relationship, right? And so Cody Wilson said Bitcoin is what they fear it is, and I think that they're starting to realize that that's the case, and so they're going to find ways to selectively prosecute people who are using it and who are outspoken about its power. As far as the hoodies are concerned, Hoodie the Homeless was essentially just a crowdfunding operation to buy 325 discontinued orange hoodies from Mass Appeal Inc. because they said they couldn't sell them retail because they were discontinued, and they just had them laying around, and we're like, hey, orange is our color. And so we agreed to buy them in bulk if we could raise this money, and we distributed them to the homeless in San Francisco. And it was so successful that we intend on doing this every year. So this is going to be Bitcoin Not Bombs winter program from now on. We're going to start fundraising in August, and we're also going to try and branch out into other cities. We're looking for partners in other cities to help us distribute in other places.
I would love to do that in New York City. We should definitely talk after this, but where can people get more involved? Where can people help you guys out?
BitcoinNotBombs.com.
And I know you're prepared with your fake Bitcoins for the next time TSA comes, but are there any tips and recommendations you have for, you know, up-and-coming Bitcoiners who are using Bitcoin? It seems like the government is just going to use this as they please, use the laws and regulations as they please against anyone who they don't like. Any tips and recommendations for people out there?
Well,
is this a chilling effect on you?
No, not on me. So there's some good science behind this idea, and if you look for what we're also doing a campaign called Authoritarian Sociopathy, which is a crowdfunded a renegade psychological experiment on police brutality. And so if you look at the science of the psychology of power and authority, it says that mockery is one of the most powerful weapons against it, and there's some science behind that you should look up. It's called Power and Hypocrisy is the name of the experiment. So when I see things like this, I see an excellent opportunity to mock the TSA. And so new Bitcoiners who are getting into this space and who are living in this sort of climate of fear that the government is trying to create, the best defense is to laugh. That is the best defense against fear, is to laugh. And so I'm recommending that everybody travels through TSA with their Bitcoin shirts on. Everybody sort of like makes fun of, like spreads around the blundering idiocy of these stupid, evil bureaucrats and just make fun of them, make them embarrassed to come out and say Bitcoin out loud because they don't know what it is.
Exactly. Very well said. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, I'm just glad to be here at the conference. The lunch went well, and I'm excited to be part of the crowd.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
What does it matter if companies go bankrupt? Have we become such a fragile culture that, oh no, a company went bankrupt, that's the end of the world. Companies go bankrupt all the time, you know?
But there's more good people in the world, and the good people will take it just like they took the internet and turned it into a powerful force for individual empowerment, for liberty, and for good, just like we've seen with the internet.